It is to this war zone that Joe Biden flew in. I can't imagine a worse background. Even before he boarded the flight, there was a setback. His trip to Jordan was cancelled. Biden's initial plan was to meet Arab leaders in Amman, but all of them pulled out. The Palestinian president, the Egyptian president, and the Jordanian king. They all pulled out. They were enraged by the hospital attack in Gaza. So they said, no meeting. Nonetheless, Biden pushed on. He was welcomed in Tel Aviv by Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They shared a hug on the tarmac. And after that, it was time for business. Biden did talk about yesterday's hospital attack. He sided with Israel, though. He said the other team appeared to be behind it, meaning the Palestinians. Biden and Netanyahu held 2 rounds of talks. The first was bilateral. The second was with Israel's war cabinet. Afterwards, both leaders addressed the media. Netanyahu promised to protect civilians while ensuring Israel's victory. Biden said America would always have Israel's back. Listen to this.
Israel will do everything it can to keep civilians out of harm's way. We have asked them and will continue to ask them to move to safer areas. We'll continue to work with you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the road to victory will be long and hard, but united in purpose and with a deep sense of justice and the unbreakable spirit of our soldiers and our people, Israel will prevail.
And I want you to know you're not alone. You are not alone. As I emphasized earlier, we will continue to have Israel's back as you work to defend your people. We'll continue to work with you and partners across the region to prevent more tragedy to innocent civilians.
Both leaders said what the other wanted to hear. But for Biden, it was quite a turnaround because after the hospital attack, the US was angry. They said Biden would ask tough questions to Netanyahu. Maybe he did in private, but in public he was all support. The most Biden did was give a gentle reminder. He drew parallels between the Hamas attack and 9/11. He then asked Israel to not repeat Washington's mistakes. Listen in.
Justice must be done. But I caution this while you feel that rage. Don't be consumed by it. After 9/11, we were enraged in the United States. While we sought justice and got justice, we also made mistakes. There's always cost, but it requires being deliberate. It requires asking very hard questions. It requires clarity about the objectives and an honest assessment about whether the path you're on will achieve those objectives.
So what exactly is Joe Biden's game plan? What can he realistically hope for? So far, there's been one development. Biden asked Israel to allow aid into Gaza, and Israel has now agreed. Hopefully, the aid trucks can now start moving. But beyond that, what can Biden do? At this point, not much. We'll talk about Biden's best and worst case scenario. Best case, he can talk Netanyahu out of the invasion. No Gaza operation, no spillover. But right now, that looks tough. You just heard what Prime Minister Netanyahu told Biden. He said the road to victory will be long and tough. It doesn't sound like de-escalation at all. Now, the worst case scenario. Netanyahu ignores Biden's appeals. He decides to go in all guns blazing into Gaza. Hundreds of civilians die. Arab countries gang up on Israel. And Iran unleashes its proxies. Basically a full-blown West Asian war. To be honest, even this scenario looks unlikely. So Biden's realistic bet is somewhere in between. An Israeli invasion with limited casualties. And that's where his Jordan trip was so important. Arab states could have helped in 3 ways. 1, evacuating Gazans. 2, delivering aid. And 3, possibly hosting refugees. But now all of that has gone out of the window. The Arab states do not want to discuss aid or evacuations. They want to discuss a ceasefire. Listen to Jordan's foreign minister. There is no use in talking now about anything except stopping the war. That's what he said. And this puts Biden in a bind. On the one hand, he has promised Israel unwavering support. So now he can't back out. On the other, Arab states have toughened their stance. They're saying ceasefire or nothing. The US Secretary of State has been hopping from one capital to the next. He's been meeting leaders across the Arab world, yet he could not get the job done, which is why Biden decided to visit himself. He is hoping that the symbolism of a wartime presidential visit will help. It still could. But this is not the West Asia of 5 years ago. The equations have changed. For example, Iran and Saudi Arabia are on talking terms. Iran's foreign minister is in Jeddah today. He's holding talks on the situation in Gaza, and that's another headache for Joe Biden because Saudi Arabia is a key ally and Iran is a sworn enemy. Now, those two coordinating could make matters worse. When you put all of this together, what do you see? An uphill battle for Joe Biden. There was a time when the US was seen as the ultimate power in West Asia, both in war and peace, but not anymore. Today, even Palestinians are rejecting the US. They say Biden is not welcome in the West Bank.
First of all, Biden is unwelcome here because he has a major role in this game, a major role in the aggression on our people, and he is providing the money and weapons to kill our people in Gaza and everywhere.
The US has given over $500 million to Palestine since 2021, yet the people say Biden is not welcome. It sums up America's waning influence. It doesn't have the political clout to rally its Arab allies or to stop Israel's invasion. So maybe Biden's best bet is his military. He's deployed 2 aircraft carriers to the region. He's also put 2,000 soldiers on standby. All of this is aimed at Iran and its proxies. The US has also threatened more sanctions if Tehran intervenes. Those are hard power threats, sanctions and military deterrence. Biden repeated those threats in Tel Aviv today.
We've moved U.S. military assets to the region, including positioning the USS Ford Carrier Strike Group in the Eastern Mediterranean, with the USS Eisenhower on the way to defer further aggression against Israel and to prevent this conflict from spreading. The world will know that Israel is stronger than ever. And my message to any state or any other hostile actor thinking about attacking Israel remains the same as it was a week ago. Don't.
And Biden made some threats. We don't know if it'll work, but we can say this. The US spent most of the last decade withdrawing from West Asia, pulling out soldiers and assets. But one flare-up, and they're back to square one.